Okay, everybody. Basic Taoist concepts in lazy monkey yoga. Well, as the creator of, or I guess you could say the founder of the lazy monkey yoga style, I am required to give you my feelings, thoughts, observations on, or commentary on the spiritual texts. Primarily, lazy monkey yoga focuses on the physical body. It focuses on the joints. It focuses on the muscles, the bones, and general health and well-being, making sure that we feel good. We're operating optimally, that we have optimal performance in our daily life. Also, it's a very important preparation in the body to be able to sit and sit still for prolonged periods of time for Taoist alchemy and meditation. So, the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu is our Bible. Now, I want you to know that the philosophy of the way or the philosophy of the Tao does not come into conflict with other spiritual beliefs. It's not competing with other spiritual belief systems for superiority like Christianity does or Islam does, or it doesn't set itself up on a pedestal as we, the Chinese, are God's chosen people like the Jews do in Judaism. You know, it's not that kind of spirituality. It's not that kind of faith. The Tao is based on nature, and it's based on what's observable, what can be experienced. It is an experiential spiritual path and philosophy. And that's why I feel also, and I'm not sorry if I offended anybody with my previous statements about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, competing for who's the bestest, at spiritual practice, or even Hindus or Indian gurus who come along saying, "My way is the way. This spiritual practice is what will work. It's the only path to liberation." Anybody who comes along with that kind of attitude, meh, forget about it. To me, that is not the proper attitude to have when stepping forward with the reverence that one should have to that creative principle, that creative force that made all of this stuff, continues to support and supply life, sustains all of this. It's a very arrogant way to promote your spirituality and to recruit people, but the Tao Te Ching 1, the very first scripture, and it says, "The Tao is beyond words and beyond understanding. Words may be used to speak of it, but they cannot contain it." So basically what that means is we could sit around and talk about how all of this stuff works all day and all night, eternally. The words that we use to describe all of this, I'm talking about consciousness, our bodies, nature, the nature of the universe, science, mathematics, anthropology, philosophy, comparative religious studies, sociology, linguistics, all of that. So we could sit around and talk about this stuff forever. But words never get at it. Because there's two versions of reality, okay? There's reality as it is, like what we're all experiencing right now, right? Reality as it is, knock on wood. And then the reality, which is the all of the thoughts, how we think about the world, how we process what's happening to us in the world. So there's things the way they are, just as they are. And then there's all the stories we tell ourselves and about other people and how the world is supposed to work and what paradigm we're in and, what is real, what is not real, who's right, who's wrong, and all of that. Tao is beyond all of that stuff, okay? Because, like it says, words can be used to talk about the supreme reality, but they will always fall short because they'll never contain it. Because the complete supreme reality over all things contains all of that. Tao existed before words and names, before heaven and earth. It's the unlimited father and mother of all limited things. See beyond boundaries to the subtle heart of things. Dispense with the names, the concepts, expectations, ambitions, differences. This is the beginning of all understanding. We could pretty much just leave it at that and say, okay, Lao Tzu, now it's time to go home for the rest of the day. It's time to go home. He said it all, really. So, Taoism is just that. It is being one with the way of the universe, the nature of the universe. And so lazy monkey yoga as a yoga style seeks to do that. The few things that it seeks to do is simply, one, putting the individual back into contact with their body. So many of us are walking around completely disconnected from our own body. A lot of us have health problems. A lot of us have trauma, emotional, mental injuries we're walking around with, stored in our cells, in our body, locked away in our brains and our minds. And lazy monkey yoga style is the way in which we're able to heal, nurture, repair these things. The lazy monkey yoga style is an embodied style of yoga. Embodied means that we start with the physical body first in our spiritual discipline, and then after we take care of the physical, then we move on to the spiritual. You see, it's a little different. It's a lot of time in Taoist alchemy and in Taoism focused on this, being present and being connected to you. That might come as a revelation to a few people. But the Tao Te Ching was written for us by these sages and this sage of old. And it's also a manual for a leader or a ruler or for a king. Because a lot of the second portion, or a lot of parts of this book, talk about how to deal with other people, how to communicate with other people, how to rule over other people. That is also very apropos to being a yoga instructor. Like, how do you lead people in yoga instruction? Do you lead them by force? Or do you lead by example and allow those who are ready to follow along? Those who are ready to learn will learn from you after you accumulate this knowledge and wisdom and you turn around and go out into the world to teach. People will follow your example. But let me tell you something right now from the jump. There is always going to be someone who doesn't like you. Always. Forever. There's always going to be somebody who has some kind of problem with you, with the way you look, the way you talk, your lifestyle choices, your political affiliations or non-political affiliation, whether you smoke weed or whether or not you don't, whether you drink, whether you don't, what religion you have to practice, etc., etc., etc. There's always going to be someone who has a problem with you. And the way other people feel about you is not your problem. people can feel any way they can about you and your yoga practice, but that doesn't matter, because their opinions about you, who you really are, deep down inside, your values, your moral character, other people's opinions about you don't matter. So that's why you got to go ahead and let go of that. And Taoism is very, very, very clear, very, very, very clear about that. You know, that people's opinions change rapidly overnight, it seems. And so that's why this practice is a very quiet, gentle practice. Lao Tzu talks about the Tao nourishing all things. Nourishing. If there's one word that I would like to attach to the lazy monkey yoga style, it would be nourishing. It's a nourishment to the body and a nourishment to the spirit. That is why the Tao Te Ching is the second most read spiritual text in the world, and why people eventually come around to this philosophy and recognize it as, you know, kind of like a superior way of life. It's a better way of life. You know, it's a better way of life when you're able to accept and be present for your life and allow things just to be as they are. Okay? So, the Tao Te Ching, you must read it. You must read it a second time, a third time, and always have it by you when you're teaching your yoga class. In case you ever want to drop a piece of wisdom out of it, you can always pick one verse out of the Tao Te Ching, and you can build your class theme around that. You know, that's if you choose to go the spiritual route. See, in the lazy monkey yoga style class that I teach you to teach, we don't teach the philosophy. We don't teach meditation techniques as part of the class. Okay, teaching meditation might be a separate class that you do, or it could be something that's a scheduled time for people to do after lazy monkey yoga is over. Because in Taoist alchemy and in Taoist meditation, we sit cross-legged on the floor or on a cushion or on a blanket, and we sit. It is a seated meditation. The meditations that are performed in the Taoist alchemy of Wang Lipping, those techniques are all done in a seated position. So we don't do that. Most people are not ready for that. Most people can't handle it. They can't tolerate it. They don't have the attention span for it. Okay. And we don't lay people on their back and have them zone out into some kind of, you know, gooey miasmic state of mind where they're like snoring and farting all over the place. We don't do that either. You know, the lazy monkey yoga style is a physical discipline, Qigong, that we use to prepare the body for meditation from beginning to end. If it's a 60-minute class, it's movement from the beginning to the end. If it's a 75-minute long class, 75 minutes is pretty much the max. 90 minutes is a very long time to be teaching this stuff, and I do not recommend it. Nor do I recommend that you allow any yoga instructor or studio owner or gym owner to come along and try to alter the way you teach. Be very, very careful, okay? My style of yoga is everything is practiced for a reason. There's not one thing that is done in class that's not done for a purpose. There is a method. This is an entire method that has been created. It's a sequential method. It's a layering, it's a stacking, it's a building the foundation and then growing from the foundation. It has to be set up a particular kind of way. Whether it's the very active practice or whether or not it's the more subdued practice, there is a method. And this method has to be performed and taught by you a very specific way. So don't allow somebody else to come along and try to tell you what to do or how you need to alter your class. You know, if somebody doesn't like the class, guess what? That's too fucking bad. They can go take somebody else's class. If you teach the lazy monkey yoga class and there are people that don't like it or criticize it, that's fine. They can go somewhere else. Okay? So just stick to the way. Stay to the Tao, the way, and then the lazy monkey way, stick to the lazy monkey way, and you'll be very successful.